Okay, so hello and welcome to GHAPPcast, which is the official voice of gastroenterology and hepatology advanced practice providers. I'm your host, Gabriella McCarty. I'm a nurse practitioner at NorthShore Gastroenterology. We're a large private practice in the Cleveland area, and I have been here for the past 25 years. I do general GI, IBD, and hepatology, so a bit of everything. And I was actually one of the original founders of GHAPP many years ago. So I'm on faculty there, and I love that conference, by the way. So if you get a chance to go to that as an APP, I definitely recommend it. So today's episode is particularly close to our hearts as we delve into biosimilars from a patient perspective. So we're doing something that we've never done yet on GHAPPcast. So joining us today is a very special guest. Her name is Emily, and she is a patient who has experienced the transition actually to and from biosimilars firsthand. So together we'll explore the real-world impact of biosimilars through her eyes, and we'll uncover Emily's initial concerns and some of the misconceptions that she may have faced and how her journey evolved into a success story. So thank you so much for joining us, Emily, and helping us bring a perspective that we haven't yet included in the podcast. So yours is extremely important, and I think I speak for our listeners by saying that we feel very fortunate to have you here. And so would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So first and foremost, I am a mom of two little boys. One's 3.5 and one's 10 months. And then I also am an intervention specialist for kindergarten through second graders. So you could say I'm busy and always on my toes. But I was diagnosed at the age of 9, and I was initially diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And for about 8 years, I just was on, things like Pentasa and prednisone and just different maintenance drugs in pill form. And then when I turned 17, that following summer, I actually was hospitalized for the first time, which I was fortunate it was that long before I was hospitalized. But I wasn't reacting to steroids anymore. So that's when I started infusions. And I was initially started on Remicade. And also my diagnosis was changed to Crohn's. And so I was on Remicade for several years. And then in so that would have been 2010. And then in 2019, that's when I had my switch from Remicade to Renflexis. And I was on that for about 3.5 years until insurance said, nope, we're not paying for that. You're going back on Remicade. And then I've been on Remicade since then. So, and with both infusions, I've been in remission for about 10 years now.
That's great. Thank you for that introduction. And yeah, from our standpoint, a lot of times it's insurance switching from a brand name to a biosimilar, but it's so different with everybody's insurances. And from our standpoint, we would just, whatever whatever's covered, we want you on treatment. And we want you in remission is the bottom line. So thanks for that. And again, we're just so happy to have you. So this episode is kind of a deep dive into the patient experience through Emily's eyes and what it truly feels like to switch between, which, from your standpoint, it might not feel like much at all. And any challenges that you have encountered, the outcomes that you've achieved. And it's really just about understanding biosimilars, not just from a clinical perspective, but from the personal side, from the patient side. You're the one that has to live with this every day. So whether you're a provider or a patient or someone looking to learn more about the world of biosimilars, this episode promises to enlighten and inspire. So sit back, relax, and join us on this insightful journey into the patient's perspective on biosimilars. So let's get started, and welcome to the show, Emily. I'm going to go through some basic questions, and we can just chat a little bit about your thoughts and I mean, what were your initial thoughts and feelings when we were switching you to a biosimilar from Remicade?
I was nervous. I mean, I was on Remicade for, like I said, about 9 years at that point, and had been, if that was 2019, so for about 4 years, I had been in remission. I didn't want to rock the boat. Like, I was feeling great. I didn't want to change anything. I was content with going every 8 weeks for an infusion. Like, let's keep it. Let's not change. So yeah, I mean, I was very nervous. I didn't want to do anything different.
Yeah, and that's what we hear most off. Yeah, don't rock the boat. And yeah, and like I said, we can't tell you 100% that you're going to feel exactly the same, but I'd say like high 90th percentile that, I mean, we're not changing the dosage, and these are manufactured, from a cost standpoint, very, very much like the original medication. So you did have some initial concerns, and any other concerns that you had, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, the big one is just I wanted to continue to feel good and, be healthy and everything. I did also want to make sure like it was the same procedure, right? Like I am personally pre-medicated before my infusion. Like, is that going to stay the same? Is it going to be the same amount of time? That stuff too, because that impacts my work and my life at home, on how long I'm gone and how often I have to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did, keep everything the same. Did you experience anything different? Like that first few weeks, did you feel any different when you switched to a biosimilar?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I know you and I have talked before about it, but that's what's funny is like it was a very seamless transition to and from that. I didn't notice a difference. And
yeah,
I had to even double check when I was on it because it's been that seamless.
Yeah. And what I thought was interesting with you too, that you can provide a little bit of perspective, is that with your pregnancies, so with one of your boys, you were on the brand name. And then with your next pregnancy, you were on the biosimilar, or it might have been vice versa. But any differences with the pregnancies? And
no, thankfully, no. I mean, that's a huge concern, always has been a huge concern of mine, because I always knew I wanted to be a mom of how do we treat my Crohn's while I'm pregnant, right? So I actually switched right to Inflectra right before I got pregnant with my first child. And but everything was fine. We didn't have to change anything. I felt great. I maybe even felt better than not pregnant, if that's possible. And then, for my second one, I was on the brand name Remicade, and same deal, seamless, no issues at all with pregnancy. And it was such a relief to me that for both of them, I could remain on them my entire pregnancy. And so pregnancy brings enough challenges of its own, right? So to remain flare-free and not have to worry about Crohn's was huge.
Yeah. And that's what we want. We want you to stay in remission. I mean, it's much more harmful to you and the baby to have a flare-up, during pregnancy than, anything, these medications. And there are, obviously, we talked, there are different, there's the Otis registry, the piano trials. So pregnancy could be a whole other podcast, basically. But what, I just love hearing that you were on different treatments and no differences made it through and in remission.
And I it's great. Worth saying too, I breastfed both of my children at least for the first couple months. So I was on both for that as well, and no issues there. So that's another positive.
Yeah. So some other questions. Were there any resources or types of support that helped you understand adjusting to biosimilars? Like, did the drug companies provide anything from our standpoint that we could have done better in
No, I mean, I
communicating?
think you guys were great at communicating, that really there wasn't going to be a difference. It was going to be a very seamless transition. And I mean, I did receive a pamphlet of what it was, like your typical drug.
What a biosimilar
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
That type of information. So I read through that and everything, but just having a communication with you guys was the most helpful. Sometimes those information packets are overwhelming to those of us not in the medical field. So just having a
Right.
conversation was helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Um, Looking back, was there anything that you wish had been done differently during the transition?
No, not at all. I mean, like I said, it's been very seamless for me, and I'm thankful for that. So really, if I have to, I do the transition again.
So, and I always like to follow my IBD patients that are on any, um, medications. I like to follow you guys every 6 months, no matter what, even if you're doing well, because I feel like sometimes you can catch some early subtle changes, and then we might check drug levels and make sure that, your levels are good and you didn't develop antibody, things like that. But I always, like to touch base every 6 months, in our practice at least. So, and I'm glad that you keep those follow-ups. Um, so yeah, I always wish to be like transparent with patients. Sometimes, the pharmacies would just, and it's happened a couple times where the pharmacy would just change and then the patient comes in and they weren't aware they were going to be on a different medication, and then you get stressed out at your infusion.
Yeah.
So just, from our standpoint, we want to be transparent and just, hey, this is what insurance is saying. We want this to be covered. We don't want you to have a lag in treatment of trying to appeal for the brand name, because they'll just, most of the time, just say, you have to try and fail the biosimilar. So, so that's it. Or do you have any advice that you would give to other patients that might be considering that switch to a biosimilar, or might be pushed into it by their insurance?
No, I just think if you have concerns or questions, talk to your healthcare provider. Like I said, I was very nervous at the beginning that I had been in remission. Why? I didn't want to change that. Like, who wants to? But talking to you guys just reassured me that, I trust you. You wouldn't say, hey, go do it. You're fine. Like, it should be okay, if it wasn't going to be. So just if you have hesitations, ask questions and reach out to your healthcare provider.
All right. Great advice, Emily. Yeah, there's so many different drugs in the pipeline, and it's confusing to us as providers, not to mention to you as a patient, just, and then all these biosimilars coming out. So, but yeah, our bottom line is that we want you in remission, both with your symptoms, but also endoscopically and your pathology. Now we're looking at histologic remission too. So, so that you don't have problems down the line, right? Definitely you being so busy with 2 little kids and what you do for a living, you do not have time to be sick. So, no. For sure. So, yeah. So as we, do you have any other thoughts before we kind of close the episode down? Any other comments?
No.
Yeah. So we so appreciate you, and just want to extend a heartfelt thank you, because this is the first time we've had a patient on here. So it's exciting. And just for you being here and sharing your personal journey. Your openness and detailed experience truly helps to illuminate the human side of things. And so we're just happy to have had the opportunity to have you on the podcast. So to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope this episode has provided you with a deeper understanding of biosimilars from a patient standpoint and has equipped you with the knowledge to support your own patients' journeys and biosimilars. Keep that communication open. That's the big thing. Remember, GHAPPcast is here to be your source of information and inspiration in the field of gastroenterology and hepatology. So make sure to subscribe to GHAPPcast on your favorite podcast platform to stay updated with our latest episodes. Don't forget to explore other GHAPP offerings. Visit our informative website at GHAPP, which is GHAPP.org, and connect with us on Twitter at GastroHepApp and Instagram at GastroHepApp for the latest updates, insightful content, and exciting announcements. So I'm Gabriella McCarty. Thank you once again for joining us and reminding you to stay informed and compassionate in your practice. Until next time, take care and keep making a difference in the lives of those you serve.